Paladins. Everyone loves a good paladin. The thing about the paladins in RPGs is that they basically have everything. Not only do they basically have everything, not only do they are a jack of all trades, they excel at those things that they have at their disposal. So that is what this paladin is in Enshrouded. This little portion of the video I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what is the paladin, why is he so amazing, why is he going to be able to basically do everything that he wants to do all throughout the game, and then we'll move over onto how to build him, like the skills that we're going to be using, the equipment, so on and so forth. And yeah, like I said, basically the paladin, it's a fighter, it's a warrior, a holy warrior that is also going to be having magic available to him. He's also going to provide healing both for him and both for his party. But the interesting thing about this paladin is that he's always going to be healing himself as he fights on, dealing tremendous amounts of damage, and also having amazing AoE capabilities for crowd control situations. And you basically just stand in there. I mean, there's not too much. At some point it gets boring to play a paladin. One thing that it has to be mentioned, one thing that it has to be said, is that mages are very powerful in Enshrouded. The thing is that they are very squishy, and this guy is not going to have as much damage output as a mage, but he's going to be more durable, and you're rarely ever going to have to manage things. Sometimes around here and there with annoying enemies you are going to have to manage things, and there's a couple of bosses out there that are do one shots, so yeah, there's that. But that being said, one thing that I do want to stress out is that his magic is not going to be as good as a mage, and as a matter of fact, the main focus for this paladin to work as I intend him to work in this showcase that I have for you is constitution. It is not going to be strength, it is not going to be intelligence, it's going to be constitution, purely because of the weapons that we're going to be using and some of the skills that we're going to be using with those weapons. That being said, he's amazing at melee. You're never going to have to worry about getting crowded by a whole bunch of enemies, because you're always going to be healing, and whenever those cases, those rare cases where you don't heal yourself but just attacking, you also have your spells to actually heal yourself, so that is quite nice as well. You also have distance, you have wands, you have spells for the flying enemies that are very much annoying, and that if you don't have a proper bow and some skills to use that thing, they are very annoying enemies to fight. So yeah, I mean, this guy just basically has everything, and he's immortal. He's unkillable. Briefly talk about the skills that you're going to be using with your paladin, and there's a couple of them that are going to be the quintessential part of everything. This thing that I have right here, this branch that I have right here, sure, it is going to be nice to have the shiny plates for it, or the heavy plates for armor and so on and so forth, but the main thing that we want for with this one is for the thick skin, to have as much constitution as possible. And as a matter of fact, if you can get as much constitution and strength notes around here and there, that's going to be the main focus. One of the most important reasons that we're going to this path, it's going to be battle heal. Battle heal is going to heal you by 5% of your total health every time that you deal critical damage, and we're going to be using critical hit weapons. We'll talk about them a little later, but also because of the critical hit damage and critical weapons and so on and so forth, the weapons that we're going to be using are going to be slashing weapons. We're going to be using swords, these builds. So in this branch, you're going to take the slasher, the butcher, and then we have the veteran, which is going to increase your crit chance by 10% every time that you deal damage with a melee weapon. So that's 10 extra percent right there in there. And then we have the swift blades that are just a little bit more DPS, and also constitution attribute right here. That's actually quite nice. That's always amazing. Breach, it's a little something nice that I don't think that you actually do need. But whenever you break the stance of the enemies, you deal 100% more damage to them. So that's actually quite nice. And then we have strength right here. We have notes for strength, constitution, the vigorous deflection. None of this. This is amazing for crowd control because it deals amazing amounts of knock damage. So that's nice. But that's going to be like, again, like an extra something for the strength nodes, constitution, strength that we are going to get right here. Purely we're going to be doing this mainly to get constitution and strength. That being said, we are a paladin as well. Blink, it's a very useful thing to have. With the nodes that you're going to focus yourself right here, it's going to be intelligence, not spirit. You're not going to need that much mana. Remember that our spells are a little bit more of a support kind of thing. It's like a side something that it's nice to have. It's nice to have the extra acid spells, the fire, the electric spells and all of that kind of stuff, but it's a side something. That said, we do have to increase our intelligence quite a bit for it to be effective. But the main reason that we're going to be using this it's for water aura. I know that water aura used to be more powerful. I wasn't playing the game back then, but it was more powerful back then. But this guy, depending on the intelligence that you have, it's going to increase your health regen every time that you have damage by 1 health for every 2 points into intelligence. Right now we managed to have like 9 intelligence, so that's 4 regen. If you add that a little something to the equipment that we're going to be using, that's nice. But yeah, that's going to be mainly the skills you're going to be using. Let's talk about gear. As for armor, there's 2 possible ones that you can be using if you want to use this build for the entirety of the rendition of your playthrough. You're more than likely going to be using crafted armor. If you want to farm some cheeky farm for the Paladin armor, I do not know if I have the Paladin armor right here with me. I don't. I have it stashed in there. The Paladin armor is going to give you more armor per se, but the soldier armor set, and it's going to give you more stats. Like the helmet, this is very important. 15% melee critical chance. Remember, that's another 10% from the critical chance that we have from our skill that we talked a little bit a while ago. Then extra strike damage. One very important thing, it is going to be health. Constitution and health, that's going to be the quintessential part of this build. And why is this going to be so deadly? It is not going to be as much as for the physical or magical resistance. Everything is going to be surrounding health. And when we go in here, we have health regen right there. We have health regen. So ideally, we have 6 health regeneration from this thing right here. And then we have additional 4 from the skill that we have from the mage skill line, giving us 10 health regeneration per second, which is always nice. And then we have the glows that are going to give us 100 melee damage. Then again, remember, we're going to be using 100 melee weapons. And then we're going to deal more melee damage to foes. There's a little bit of a concession that you can have right here about the ring. You can be using Ring of the Ancients, which is going to give you more stats that we need. We need strength, we need constitution, and we need intelligence. So that's nice. We also need a little bit of endurance. So I think that's a win-win scenario right there. But there's a very popular ring that gives you basically infinite mana, so that you can be casting infinite spells. I do not think that is that effective with this Paladin, because then again, like I mentioned, the Paladin is going to be using healing spells whenever he needs them. He's going to be using distance spells whenever he needs them. He's going to be dealing acid spells whenever he needs to do a little bit more of a AoE extra chip damage around here and there, but that is all at all times going to be extra. The main core of everything about this Paladin is going to be the melee thing. So I think that, yeah, I mean, strength, constitution, intelligence, stats, it's going to be a little bit better, although it is a little bit of a grind to get the Ring of the Ancients. So if you want to get the mana regen ring, which is a guaranteed something, that's most certainly something that you can be using. I don't have that ring because I haven't picked it up yet, because I have this one right here. So the weapons. The weapons are the most important thing of everything. As for melee weapons, we're going to be using 3 of them. We're going to be using the Sword of Radiance, we're going to be using the Ice Blade, and the Light Forge Axe. These 3 right here are going to be amazing for this build. Basically, as a base right now, because of the skills, because of the gear, our character has a base 30% critical hit chance. Remember that our character heals himself whenever he deals critical hit damage by 5% of his health. That's why I was telling you that it was so much important to have constitution and health, because that percentage you heal yourself, it's going to be based on as much health as you have. So armor doesn't matter that much. The health you get back is the highest. Your constitution that you have, all the better. That being said, you also have to be focusing on eating things that have constitution. So you're essentially kind of a tank that it's unkillable because he's always out healing the damage that he receives. Whenever he doesn't out heal the damage he receives, you also have the healing spell, which is nice. That being said, the Sword of Radiance is going to increase your critical hit chance by 25%. Granted, this thing is not going to deal as much damage as the other weapons that we have on the roster, because it doesn't really have anything extra that it increases its damage by having legendary traits like the other ones that we have right here. But then again, this is the one that is going to be healing you the most, but it's going to be the one that is going to deal the less damage. So yeah, there's that. It also has quite a lot of cutting damage that you can see right there, so that's amazing because we focus on our cutting damage. And then we have the Ice Blade, which I'd say that it is my favorite, although this one, I don't have the legendary version for this one, but this is going to give you +9 ice magic damage and +9 cutting damage, which is going to increase your DPS by quite a lot, especially when you deal critical hits. And this, instead of the 25% that the other one is going to have for critical hit chance, this is going to be 15%. That, if you pair it up with the 30% that you already have as a base, means that 1 of 2 hits, it's always going to be a critical, meaning that you're always going to be healing yourself. And then we have the Light Forge Axe. This one has quite a bit of damage when it comes to fire magic damage, and it also increases the critical hit damage by 20%. The thing is that you're only going to have like 30% critical base hit chance with this weapon, but you're also, whenever you deal critical hits, you're going to be leeching or healing by 10% of your health. So ideally, this is the one that you should be using the most. It also has quite a bit of nice cutting damage. So this, if I had to rank them, this is my personal opinion, if I had to rank them, I would have this one as a first place, the one that you should be using at all times, and then followed by the Ice Blade, and then finally the Sword of Radiance. But you can mix and match here and there. At the end of the day, the whole purpose of this whole thing is to deal as much damage while you heal yourself as much as possible. As for the staff, nothing too fancy. Remember that we don't have that much mana regen, so I'm using something that it is going to increase my mana regen and that it is going to drain mana whenever I deal damage with my spells. So yeah, that's the staff that I am using, but that's only because I don't have that much mana regen. And remember that I'm using my spells as a Paladin, as a side something. I do use my fire, ice, and acid spells, but more often than not is to use the debuff that they have on the enemies. Yeah, more often than not we're dealing melee damage. In the rest of the cases, whenever you were doing like anything else, we're just fighting as a regular Paladin that has the magic power of having support kind of things. So that's quite nice. If you have the mana regen rings, you can be using something that it deals a little bit more damage instead of relying too much on your mana regen. But hey, that's the decision choice that you want to make for your Paladin. If you like the content, like and everybody, super appreciated. No, so today you're a gorgeous and beautiful person. You're indeed a gorgeous and beautiful person. I'll be seeing you, lovely people, in the next one. Have a lovely day. Goodbye.